You know, one of the things I wanted to mention was your chairwoman, Janice Clifton.
Yeah.
Interesting move. I don't know that she's even the first woman that you had. I don't think she.
It seems that we've had one in the past.
I think the AFA did.
Yes.
But I don't know her personally. But I think that's a very interesting move from what I know of her.
Well, let me tell you what you should know about Janice Clifton. She is an amazing lady. She has done things that most people would not do. She's had great success. She's understood the power of having females working on her floor to have an impact, because that's the consumer who's typically coming in that's wanting to buy. I couldn't have asked for a better person to start my role with, because anytime I have asked Janice to do anything, before I can get the word out of my mouth, it's like it's practically done. And she calls back, she says, "I've done that. Do you need anything else?" Again, here's a person who obviously in her own business, Northern California, is very busy. Yet she focuses time toward helping the industry as a whole. It's not just about her. And we've got a long history of past chairman, Harold Chapman, who had a big part with me being in this role, the same way. I mean, quite frankly, the reason I made the decision to come on board was not the position as much as it was the people. The people on that search committee that I spent time with, I was fascinated with their willingness to give back. And I wanted to be part of an organization that could recruit that type of person to volunteer.
Well, you've got some interesting people on there. One that I've interviewed any number of times, Aaron Perner. And I think he came back because he sensed, he didn't tell me this, but I just sort of sensed that he sees new things ahead.
Yeah, and you look at Aaron's life. I mean, they are people that have dared to think outside the norm in the flooring industry, from the way that you sell to the new concept store. I mean, they are willing to do things to reach the new generation that's coming in. I've made personal phone calls to Aaron many times. He's become a friend and not just a cohort from a business standpoint, but I've also begged him to stay on the board. His original agreement was, I'll do this for a year, because he's obviously very busy if you look at the size of their business.
Yeah.
But the industry needs minds like that. And by the way, we need more of them. I would appeal to the people that are watching this interview. We need people that are not focused solely on what they're doing today, but on the future and how this industry impacts that future, to become part of the membership of the WFCA.
Well, I think a lot of, as we talked a little bit earlier, I think a lot of people are not involved with the WFCA because nobody asked them, and they're not that familiar with it. And the more familiarity, the more people are going to find their way to the front door of the WFCA.
Yeah, when you lose a leader like Chris Davis, then you lose a lot of the visibility that you had out there. Yeah. And it's easy for people to forget that membership is important, that we need members and we need to retain members. We've got great people in California who are focused on not only getting people in, but retaining them. We've got Frida Staten, who I've hired here to focus on new members and also kind of re-engaging our affiliate groups. And so you'll see probably a greater focus on that than we've been able to have in the past because of the small size of our staff. But understand that every member of our staff, from Tom Jennings and Cammie Weitzel, all the way through to all the ladies in California and here, are focused on the vibrancy of new membership and retaining the membership that we have.
Well, you do have a strong team. You know, as you were talking about some of the problems of this industry, losing share, the independents losing share, it seems like there's an opportunity here for the industry as a whole to come together under a new umbrella, perhaps, or maybe a revised old umbrella.
Yeah.
And that, you know, instead of a lot of people pulling in their own individual direction, to pull in the major direction of this industry. Is there a potential there?
I think so, David. I think what you've seen is what you see in a lot of industries as an industry matures is some siloing, where people have begun to focus more inward than outward. I've had great conversations with so many in this industry, and if you ask my heartbeat outside of my primary role with the WFCA, it's to combine the power of these associations to have a positive impact on this industry. You want to see a place where that works well? Look at the Floor Covering Industry Foundation. Here's a group of men serving on that board that are very, very powerful in this industry. They compete with each other. But when they get in that room together, you'd never know they compete with each other. because they have one purpose: to meet a need. Now, that may be the need of an individual, it may be the need of a family, but they found the higher goal. And I think what we've got to do with all these associations is understand that there's a need for all of them. There's a much greater accomplishment if we all work together toward the same goal.
Well, I think too, and the industry in general, they all are a part of an industry, and moving together form critical mass that each one individually can't.
And you've mentioned timing already, Dave, but we're at a time where we have a window, and we're beginning to see some positive stuff. And as I've told people, as I've spoken at these groups across the country, if the government got out of the way, we'd really be seeing some positive growth right now. But look at what we've seen anyway.
Yeah.
We must take advantage of this, because right now is where we lay the foundation for our new future. Or we fall back into the rut that we've lived in for the last 7 years, 8 years.
What might, just speculating, what form might this take, or what are some of the possibilities?
I would like to see, I've been invited to speak at a lot of the different associational meetings. I'd like to see some associational meetings that happen concurrently, where people come together and say, hey, listen, what are the commonalities? And maybe we have portions of those meetings that are all of us together, and then we break out and have separate training things. I mean, one of our big focuses obviously is training, and so that's going to be important to us. I've had great conversations with Michael Martin with the WFCA and Dean Thompson with the Resilient Floor Covering Institute, and they all have the same heartbeat. That's what's exciting to me. There are great people wanting to do great things. I just realized in my own life, it's a lot easier to accomplish greatness together than it is to accomplish individually.
Well, it will be interesting. We'll follow with that, because that's a great idea. Quite honestly, I never dawned on me before, but I think it would be a great undertaking to have everybody basically in one room like that. And I think certainly there's a lot of need to have everybody pulling on the same end of the rope.
No doubt about it.
Well, I'll follow up with you.
Good.
We're going to have you on a monthly basis here, and this is one of the first conversations of this type, and that'd be something perhaps we can follow up on.
Good. You hold me accountable to that then.
One thing I wanted to mention here during this conversation, a couple of days ago there was an announcement that there were two were named as candidates, I guess, to the WFCA Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Chris Davis, as you mentioned, and Keith Campbell, the chairman of Mannington. And let me just ask you to comment on that.
Well, I can't think of two better choices. I've gone back, as part of what I've done in this new role is to look back at the history of who has made it into the Hall of Fame, and you've got some amazing names there who truly have fashioned this industry to determine what the forward direction would be. When I think of somebody like Keith Campbell and Mannington and what Mannington has been able to accomplish and some of the decisions they've made that were tough decisions and they've stood by those decisions, I look at the quality of the man at the top. And you look at someone like Keith Campbell and there's no way you cannot admire him. I'm sure that his biggest competitors look at Keith Campbell and go, there's a quality individual who has invested much of his life, and obviously his family's history is with Mannington, but he could have gone a lot of different directions. And if you know anything about Keith Campbell, he's not just invested in Mannington as a vital part of the Floor Covering Industry Foundation, but also so many other foundations and organizations where he serves on the board. This is a man who lives to give back and somehow manages to balance his time with his family and his business at the same time. A phenomenal choice. And, with Mannington coming up on their 100-year anniversary, I can think of no better inductee than Keith Campbell.